So welcome, and I thought I would put together a quick and easy Italian meal, kind of start to finish. I'm going to show you how to make pasta dough and a quick marinara sauce to go with that, and then a caprese salad, and to finish it off, some cannoli. So we'll start with making the pasta dough, and what I've done is this recipe calls for 3 cups, and I use pasta flour. It's a 00 flour, and it is a much softer flour than all-purpose, so it makes a really nice tender dough. And for years I had tried to make pasta dough, and it was very grainy and tough, and I just pretty much gave up on it. And over time I heard about this pasta flour, and I tried it, and ever since then I've always had a good recipe, so that's worked out really well. And I've all the classes that I give, people who have made it, and they're really happy with it, and they'll tell me that they find it very easy to do and really a lot of fun. So a fresh pasta, of course, tastes different than a dry pasta, and both are really good. Both are, have their purposes, and but the pasta, the fresh pasta has a real nice tenderness to it. So what we're going to do, we'll start is I have put 3 cups of flour, and you make a little bit of a well. And we're going to put a little bit of salt in there. And I will have all the recipes available so that you can have them for yourself. And then we're going to crack 4 eggs in the center. Now there's more flour here than what will be incorporated in, and the reason for that is you need enough to make the well with. And then we're going to put in a tablespoon of olive oil. Now it's just like making scrambled eggs, where you start to whip up your eggs. And once you kind of get the egg white in with the yolk, you're going to start to pull in little bits of flour. So we're just going to do that. And I'm doing this kind of quickly, so feel free to take your time, especially as you're learning how to do it and get a little feel for it. And we're going to get this so it has a nice kind of softness to the dough. And I'll show you as we go here when enough flour has been incorporated in. This is coming together pretty quickly. The olive oil adds a little bit of tenderness to the dough. Just in case you need to see. Now I generally will make a couple recipes at a time, because it does not take long to put together. And while you're already making a mess on your counter, sometimes it's kind of fun. And the dough freezes very nicely. I roll and cut it first, and then I package it in Ziploc bags. So then when you want to use it, all you have to do is boil up some water, and it only takes 2 to 3 minutes for the pasta to cook. See, it's starting to come together, and then after a while you just start using your hands and just start pulling it in. It's starting to look a little bit more like dough. So the reason I mentioned making more than one recipe at a time is since there's more flour here than what you need for a recipe, I take a sieve and then I just put the leftover flour in it, and then all the little egg pieces that would end up drying up and making your next dough a little bit, have all those little harder pieces in it. It's a way of taking those out. So this is just starting to come together, and it's still a little bit sticky. And the nice thing is you just keep pulling enough dough in, and I can show you that it's still sticking to my hand, so that means it's still too sticky. And you don't want to do like a real hard knead like you would for bread. Because you want to, even though this is a softer flour than than all-purpose flour, you still don't want to overwork it. Right, so this is coming together. So I just keep pulling enough in. And I think even at this point, I've got a lot of little pieces in there. I like these little bench scrapers. I didn't use them for the longest time. I keep seeing them on cooking shows on TV, and I decided to try it myself. I'm like, wow, this is a pretty cool little piece of equipment. All right, let me just sit this down. And all the little pieces are left over here, as you can see those. And now you've just got the plain flour to work with again. So we still do need a little bit more. Now, since you've worked the dough, it needs to rest before you roll it out and cut it. So we need just a little bit more flour. And then we'll wrap it in plastic, and it needs 45 minutes at least to rest. So you just kind of shape your dough around. All right, still a little bit sticky. Let's see, it's just a little bit too soft, so it needs a little bit more flour. But the dough is nice and smooth. You don't want lumps in there. So you just keep turning it and kind of pushing it through. And then it becomes nice and you have that little so get a couple more of these little lumps out. All right, it does need a little bit more flour. If you're trying to smooth it out like that, you'll know if it keeps sticking to your fingers a little bit. So it's worth the extra minute or so to get the dough just to be right, and that way it's easier to work with. All right. And I make it into like a little square so that when I go to roll and cut it, it's easier just to cut it down the middle. All right, so we're going to put a little flour on the outside before we put it onto the plastic. We'll bring our plastic over. Shape it up a little better. And we're going to let that rest. All right, so I'm going to scrape a little of this out of the way. We have our work surface all ready to go. I am going to use that for the next recipe, but I'm going to do that later. All right, so we're going to move this out of the way now. And we're going to go on and make the marinara sauce. First, I probably should wash my hands. Okay, so we are back to make the marinara sauce. Marinara it's very simple with ingredients. They are canned tomatoes, and there's olive oil, onions, and garlic. And then you can put some salt in to taste. So what I have already done was because of time, I have already chopped up the garlic and onions, and I have sauteed them in the oil, but I will show you what they look like. Hopefully you can see down in here, and say the recipe will be for 1 can of tomatoes, and then you can multiply that many times, and I will show you the size can that I generally make mine with. So the olive oil is in here, and the garlic and the onions, and I've just gotten them to where they're soft. So I really like, over time, have come to use and do like the Cento brand. And I found that the tomatoes, they do have a San Marzano. I just used the regular whole tomatoes, and they have a nice sweetness to it. It's a very low acid type of tomato, and it makes a really nice sauce. say there's just something, you don't have an acidic taste to it. You can use whatever tomatoes you like or whatever is on sale, but I've just come to like these a lot because of how mild and nice sauce that it makes. So the size can, it's the 28 ounce can is what the recipe is we're using today. But I did want to show you this brand. All right. So, since we've already sauteed the garlic and the onions together in the olive oil, and then I'm just going to kind of guesstimate here a can's worth for you. We're going to bring that up to a boil. A little bit more in. There we go. We're going to bring that up to a boil, and that is just to get the so-called raw taste of the tomatoes out, and it helps then to thicken the sauce too. And then we're going to put that in the food processor to puree it so it's a really nice smooth sauce. And you can use this on anything. I mean, I have a lot of different Italian sauces that I make. I have a nice meat sauce, and it has, you know, a lot more body to it, and it's a heavier type of sauce, and that we love that in general. And then the marinara is nice to use. You can use it on pizza. To make your own pizzas. You can make it for chicken parmesan. You can just put it, you know, on any pasta that you like. And so it's very diverse, so it's really a lot of fun, and it doesn't take long at all to make. And this is boiling already. So I'm going to get our, while this is cooking, I'm going to get everything ready to roll and cut the pasta. Now I have many times used regular hand crank rollers and cutters, and that is something that has a hook on it that you can attach to your counter, and it will have 2 settings, and then you just take your little wheel that comes with it, and you attach that to the roller part, and then when you're done rolling, you take that off and you put it over to the cutter part. I happen to have for my KitchenAid, I do have the attachments that come with it, which is the exact same thing. So I already have the roller attached to my mixer, and after we roll out the pasta, then I'm going to switch that out and I will put the cutter attachment on. So just for time, I am going to take this marinara sauce. It really does need a couple more minutes. I'm going to show you what to do next with it for puree. And I already have the food processor, set up. And I'm just going to ladle it in. Go. And so obviously this needed to thicken up a little bit more just by cooking a few more minutes, but then you just have a nice smooth marinara sauce, and it's quite yummy. So we'll set that aside. All right. All right, so we are ready to do with the dough that I had set up before. Oops, excuse me a moment. Of course, as you roll this out, this is going to expand. I know this mixer is very noisy, so I'll let it do its thing and then I'll keep explaining as we go. The best part for taking care of this, for making sure the pasta does not stick either to the attachment or together when we're all done, is just make sure I keep layering it with some flour. It will not absorb into the dough, so it won't make it any tougher. So we are going to have the setting on the rollers. It starts very wide, and then we do a series of running the dough through until you get it to the desired thickness or thinness that you like. So start on the number 1 width. And then I flour that up. And then I do 1, and then I move it to the 3. We're going to run it through a second time. Flour it up on both sides. So it will stick, and it's just not fun to fish that out. At this point, I'm going to cut it up because it's going to continue to expand. And we're going to move it to the number 5 setting. Flour this up, and then we're just going to do one more, and I move it up to the setting number 6. I find any thinner than that, for me, the dough is just almost transparent, and it's like a little bit too thin. All right, we'll move to number 6. Flour it again, and the next thing we're going to do is change out the attachment to the cutter. And I don't know if you can see how transparent. You can see that the dough has a nice softness to it, a nice tenderness. So we've gone from the block of pasta to a nice thinned out dough. This is the part that takes the longest. Do a little bit more there. All right, so we will change out the attachment. And this is the set that I got has a fettuccine setting and then a spaghetti setting. So I'm doing the fettuccine setting for this one. douse it with some flour and then dry it off just a little. Let it dry up a little bit before we package it up to store it. A trick that I have kind of come to do is after this sits on the counter for a few minutes and I make sure it's all separated, I put it on a cookie sheet and I put it in the freezer just for about 10 minutes. And that way it stays nice and separated, and then I put it in a Ziploc bag. And if you're not going to, that's if you're not going to use it the day that you're making it. And it stays really nice in the freezer that way, and you just open up your Ziploc bag and take out however much you want. I'm saying it only takes 2 to 3 minutes with such a nice tender dough. And then I just kind of spread that out a little bit. The flour will keep it separated, but I want it to kind of dry evenly too. So say in a few minutes I would just put that on a cookie sheet and put that in the freezer. And that is everything we have for making the pasta dough. So I'm going to move this over, and then we've got our pasta, we've got the sauce made. And then we're going to make caprese salad. So I have already cut up ahead of time. I'm just going to you can make individual plates for people, for yourself. You can make a great big platter. I've used platters this big before and just lined the whole thing in circles with it. And okay, so I just layer. Normally I would wash my hands after this, but we're just going to wing it here today. And then you just put your sliced mozzarella, fresh mozzarella, between the layers. And then you drizzle a little olive oil on there. Whatever vinegar you like, this is a balsamic vinegar. You don't want to put too much in, just a little here and there. And if you'd like some salt and pepper on it, you can do that, and then you can put some fresh basil on there. So that's a nice, quick, easy salad to go with your pasta and marinara. I'm definitely going to take, before we do our dessert, wash my hands. So we are back. We're going to make our quick dessert. So I have already put some fresh ricotta cheese in a mixing bowl. Now there's a really nice, and I'm going to kind of try to mash it up a little bit. You can also use a hand mixer too if you would like. There is a grade of fresh mozzarella cheese that's really, really nice and smooth. So just by doing this, this will just break up the curds a little bit so it is a little bit smoother. And this is some flavorings that we like here, and you can put whatever flavorings you like in, but we'll use this as a suggestion. So first we're going to put some powdered sugar in. And again, I have all the proportions written down in the recipes that you'll have available to you. Stir that around. Just a little bit more. So I have zested some orange peel. Just put that in. And I've chopped up a little bit of chocolate. You could use chocolate chips, any type of chocolate bar that you have. And that's everything to making the filling for the cannoli. So I have bought some store-bought shells, and then to fill it, I've just taken a Ziploc bag and I have taken just a little bit of the corner off, snip that off. You can use this like a pastry bag. You can use this, do the same thing for icings. You'll put the icing coupler inside there. So we're going to put some of the filling in. All right. Put that down towards the clipped edge. Now I kind of put it together and I twist it so that all the filling stays in one part. And then we will take a couple of shells, and I put it in from either side. I just shoot it inside there. Sometimes the chocolate chip will get stuck, so just take it out. And that's as easy as it is. It's a nice combination flavor with the orange and the chocolate. You can also make a chocolate filling by putting some cocoa in at the very beginning. All right, so that is what we have for our cannoli. So as you can see, everything's pretty quick and easy. It only takes a few ingredients for all of it. So there's some of our cannoli, and there is our salad. And that'll go nicely with your pasta marinara sauce, so enjoy. See you next time.